It's Dr. Matey. I'm up here late tonight again. It's the 28th of October. Tonight's the full moon. That's when all the ghosts and goblins come out of their little perches and caves and the trees out in the woods and descend upon the cities and towns and villages across the country and cause mayhem. They're just looking for candy corn and treats. I don't think there's be too many people looking to trick you, but there are a bunch of AHs out there who would love to, trick you, take all your candy, or soap your windows, or some crap like that. You always hear about it. Stuff going on. They had Devil's Night in Detroit for years, and I don't know if that's still going on, but there's a lot of mayhem and damage and arsons and you name it. It's just a bunch of out-of-control people thinking it was fun. Hey, let's go destroy something and have some fun. Yeah, that makes sense. All right. Now, I was down at the Special Education Center when I was a little child. I graduated first grade. Did you know that? I know my ABCs. A, B, C. And I can count to 1 to 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And I graduated first grade. I have my diploma still. Signed by my teacher, Mrs. Murphy. Well, as a reward, when I was a little kid, she took us to McDonald's. And I could have a McChicken and some small fries. And I love having McChickens. I love McChickens. My favorite sandwich of all time. And I like those tasty fries McDonald's has. Those little small bags. You put some mayonnaise on them and they taste great. But I do like McChickens. I have a weakness for McChickens. I didn't go to special education when I was younger, but it seems like I did because my brain is fried after all the stuff I've seen in my life. But I used to work with these mentally and physically handicapped people, and it was a big challenge. A lot of physical demands, a lot of mental and emotional demands too. I mean, some of the behaviors that these young people had were challenging to say the least. So you had to think ahead and do what was in the best interest of them, and you couldn't think about yourself. You just had to take care of your individuals, as they call them. You don't call them clients; you call them individuals. So anyway, I heard on the news, Canadian prepper out of Manitoba, Saskatchewan. She's got a nice business. She's got a great YouTube channel. You're saying that the U.S. government has halted exports of all guns and rifles, handguns, rifles, for 90 days. They can't be exported. Well, it's probably because Joe Biden has given everything away, thinking he's helping these allies of ours, but he's left us defenseless. I mean, what an idiot the guy is, man. And his advisors, his military advisors, and his whole cabinet, they're whacked. I mean, I don't know what these people are thinking of. I mean, they must be living back in the 80s or the 90s. And, it's 2023, soon to be 2024, and these guys are clueless. They're old school. We need new, fresh, young leadership. Some smart, intelligent people who aren't too PC, who can get things done. I look at all these protests that they're having in the cities. What was it in London? They had over 100,000 people protesting and shit. And then, they have their major European cities. In American cities, New York City, kill the Jews, fry them, gas them. That was their mantra. Free Palestine. The hatred that these people engender show just goes to show how low their intelligence is. instead of coming up with a solution, they want to participate in a huge protest and yell and scream and print flyers and put posters up and beat people up who don't agree with them. These big protests can get out of hand quick, too. I mean, when the mob mentality takes over, it's anybody's game. You know, if you're a policeman, you get surrounded by a bunch of psycho protesters. You know, they've gone psychotic. They've broken that psychotic barrier. And because they're so emotionally jacked that, you're going to be their next victim. And they're coming after you. So watch out, officers. And they want to defund the police. Look at the crime rate in this country. It's sky high. Yeah, this one, I think it was in Portland, maybe it was Seattle, the councilwoman was asked if she still wants to defund the police. She was a big proponent of it. After they had a drive-by shooting that killed a little toddler, or I don't know what the exact story is, but the reporters nailed her on her way into the City Hall chambers, and she just said, "I would never change my mind. That was my decision, and I think it's a correct one, and I stand by it." I mean, and I don't think she's a native-born American. I think she's a foreign invader. Well, anyway, that's the mentality. These people suck. You know, they just put up with anything. High crime. You name it, man. You park a car in San Francisco or one of these West Coast Democrat cities, they're going to be broken into in about 5 minutes. They'll still wear your crap. A lot of people are just leaving the cars open, saying, take what you want. There's nothing in here. Well, they'll probably take the car then, you know. Anyway, back to these foreign invaders. I remember when Western Europe opened up their borders and invited all these North Africans and Algerians and Muslims in from all these third world countries. They just flooded in. They got in any way they could. They crossed the Mediterranean. They did it by foot, overland. And, once they got into the countries, Germany and France and Sweden, well, they treated them like welcome guests, like welcoming heroes. They gave them a nice place to stay and lots of money and some food and some medicine. They even got the people who needed them glasses and got the teeth checked, too. Because they were so guilty that the countries are so white that they needed to even up the score. And they were willing to pay for it. Little did I realize, almost 10 years later, how much this has cost them. It's bankrupted them. Their treasuries are depleted. And they're already high-tax countries. I mean, these European countries, they tax the hell out of you, like 50% of what you make. It's crazy. And then they get a tax on everything, value-added tax. And, gas is like $8 a gallon over there, $9 a gallon. They're sold by the liter. So it sounds cheap, it's only $2.25 a liter. But this invasion we've had by these foreign invaders on the southern border, it's untenable. And, the northern border is pretty porous, too. And I think that's a preferred entry point for a lot of the more nefarious invaders. The Chechens, Eastern European, Russian, Ukrainian type, mobsters and organized crime. They just go to Manitoba and cross over into North Dakota and then just make their way down to Miami or New Orleans or Dallas or Oklahoma City. But the ones that are coming in from the southern border, I just read with a Democrat mayor of El Paso, Texas, dispatched 171 buses full of invaders, and their destination is God knows where. They just sent them out to the country. A few weeks back, they dropped like 4 or 5 busloads of invaders off in downtown San Diego. They didn't have anything with them. They just let them go. Yeah, off the bus. I hope you had a nice ride. It was nice seeing you, boys. But this is insanity. They've lost total control of the border. And we've let in all kinds of evil people. And they just don't get it, do they, up there in Washington? Mayorkas, the Homeland Security Director. We're going to pay for this down the road, and it's all going to be on his back. Because it was misfeasance. He just didn't do his job. And he go testify in front of the senators and congressmen under oath. And he just double talk them. And, remember Ted Cruz was interrogating him, I guess. And Eric replied, "Oh, you're impugning my reputation. I've been a civil servant for 22 years, and how can you talk to me like that?" Sometimes those career people, they need a good talking down to so they can get a dose of reality, because these people are clueless. And Mayorkas is about the most clueless Homeland Security Director we've ever had. I remember when Tom Ridge took over as Director of Homeland Security, and he was a great security conscious fellow, and he did his best as humanly possible to make America as safe as possible. And that's what America should have been doing everything he could to make America safe. And instead, he betrayed his oath, and he did his own thing, rotten. I'm not even going to say it, but I hate the guy, man. He's just wrong. He's messed up, man. And we're going to pay for it down the road. You watch. Now, they caught that bastard who did the mass shooting up in Lewiston, Maine. Thank God he committed suicide. They say he was schizophrenic, and 25% of the mass shooters are schizophrenic. I had a buddy of mine who became schizophrenic when he turned 19. That's about the age when schizophrenia begins to show its symptoms and signs. And the poor guy, he walked 25 miles in his bare feet to one of the nearby towns where we grew up. And the parents didn't know what to do. They were, they were going, "Where's Jerry?" And Jerry had taken off on this little adventure of his. So they called the police and say, "Hey, look, my son's in trouble. He's not doing well mentally. Can you keep an eye out for him and help him if you can?" Well, the state police ended up seeing him on the side of the road walking in his bare feet. And he was so spaced out. He just complied with the officer, and he put him in the back seat of the trooper's car, and his feet were so torn up. You could see the bone, the tendons, the sinews, the muscles in his feet. He'd completely worn the soles off his feet and the flesh off his toes, and it was serious. It was so bad. But, mental illness is a terrible thing. I remember after Trump got elected, all the Democrats, they went haywire. They all ended up making a beeline towards their psychiatrist office or their doctor's office to get some tranquilizers in sleeping medicine because they're in such a state of shock. And then they had to get therapy too, 6 or 8 months or even a year of therapy just to work it out. They couldn't believe Trump got elected. But I'm a Trumpy. Here we go. There's the Trumpmeister. Make America great again. Yeah. I'm also a deplorable and an infidel. Hello, Akbar. Whatever you guys say. When you see those missiles fired off, I'm sick of religious fanaticism. I just really wish they'd keep to themselves and leave everybody else alone. When somebody imposes their will on you, when you have a right to be left alone as a person, that's wrong. So if someone comes up and beheads you or chops your hands and feet off, like, these ISIS boys did back in their heyday. I watched enough of their videos and, and I'm glad I did, only because it was an education. I wouldn't want any little kids to see it, any young, fragile minds. But to me, I'm ex-military, and to see the depravity that these people stoop to is just incredible. Just so they could create propaganda videos. You wouldn't many friends, I tell you that. Now listen, after Trump got elected, they took their shock and turned it into hate for Trumpy. It was the most transformative thing I've ever seen in my life. I didn't realize how fragile my fellow Americans were, mentally and emotionally fragile, where an election would make them freak out and go haywire. Well, we saw it happen, didn't we? No, Trump's a racist. That's right, he don't like black people. Okay. And, he's evil. He did all sorts of bad things. Well, they just kept coming on and making up these stories, and the crooked, lying, fake news media just backed these narratives and, gave them a place to air their views on the air, on national TV and radio. They treated them like they were so right. That Trump is evil and bad. I tell you, Trump is not evil. I think Joe Biden's evil for how bad he screwed up this country. He's made us defenseless. He's given all our weapons. He left $85 billion in weapons sitting on the tarmac in Afghanistan. Bagram. Now the Chinese are running Bagram Air Force in Afghanistan. And they have our equipment. I mean, it's such a serious error in judgment by the administration officials and the military officials that it just boggles my mind that nobody did anything more than shrug. Oh, it's okay. We'll give it to him. Let him have it. Yeah, pretty soon, make its way into Europe and America. Who knows, But there are forces bigger than America working against us. I mean, we have some people who really hate us bad. Well, we did a lot of dirty deeds, done cheap, to a lot of places around the world. Vietnam, Cambodia, South America and Central America with the coup d'etats and the drug running. The CIA was bringing in drugs so they could pay for their covert ops since the government wouldn't give them the money. They went into business for themselves. How about some Peruvian flake? I got 100 kilos right here. You can have them. Give me the cash. And then, assassinations of world leaders, coup d'etat. A number of them. The one in Ukraine sticks out in my mind as such a blatant abuse of American power. when they take a democratically elected president and get him tossed out of office and install their puppet regime. That says a lot about this country. And then we got Iraq. He went in there and blew the hell out of the place, and we put up a $3 billion embassy in there in Iraq. I guess Baghdad. I'm not sure. The other thing is, I remember when Crooked Hillary was bragging about killing Muhammad Gaddafi, Gaddafi duck in Libya. Well, the reason they went into Libya and took Muammar out was because he's sitting on like 4 or 6 million ounces of gold, and they were going to turn it into a Muslim currency for Muslim countries, and they're going to use the gold to back up the value of the money. Well, what happens? A mob attacks Gaddafi. They film it just to be sure they got it, on tape to show everybody. Propaganda! Then they show his last seconds and somebody shoved something up his butt or whatever. I forget how he died, but it was a horrible death. Well, guess what? That gold never was found, was it? I think Crooked Hillary has it in their vaults. Who knows what happened to it? But I mean, when you get that kind of money laying around, you bring a James Bond in and Charlie Chan and Sherlock Holmes. Put them on the case. Let them investigate it. See if they can solve the crime. Well, it's a terrible thing. This country has gotten so out of control. We need to get a grip on things again and look out for one another. But it's always stuck in my mind on how people went haywire when Trump was elected. I saw that they cut apart the statue of Robert E. Lee, the Confederate general, down in Charlottesville, where they had Fight the Right or whatever, some kind of protest. Where that land whale got run over by the guy trying to escape the mob, and Heather, what was her name? And she flew up in the air and boom, down on the ground. She died of a heart attack because she was so fat. But it was still tragic, I remember watching the stories and reviewing the tapes and stuff, and the police didn't really separate the two opposing sides. They let them go at each other. It was a huge mistake. You got these vicious mobs, they want to kill. They want to get your blood flowing. They want to bash your brains in. And, mobs are about the most dangerous thing that humans are capable of, because you get into groupthink, mindthink, and you go haywire, and the mob mentality takes over. I remember going to see the ball drop in New York City, Times Square, a long time ago, back in the early 90s. I remember I was in the crowd. It was packed. But about 10 minutes before the ball was to drop, the crowd just started pushing forward. And you couldn't do anything except go with the flow. And I tell you, they were pushing hard, man. There was nowhere to go. I had to tell the people in front of me, come on, move up a little bit. Come on, they're pushing me. But, that could have turned ugly if somebody went haywire there. But I never liked that feeling, and I don't want to be in the middle of a mob ever again, because it's just too unsafe. Listen to Full Moons tonight. That's when the little bats come out of their caves, and the kids be wearing trick or treat masks pretty soon, saying trick or treat. Oh, here's a Smith and Wesson for you, young fella, and 50 rounds of ammo. Have fun. Happy Halloween. Oh man, we're some sick puppies here in this country, but we do have a sense of humor. I got to tell you that. Well, at least we try, because I mean, things are so absurd that you gotta have a sense of humor, otherwise you go crazy. The little baby's talking to me. He loves you. Thanks for spending some time with me. I hope I entertained you and I made you think. Yeah, we need to think. Stay humble. Be happy for what you have, even if it's a little. Just happiness for your gratefulness for what you do have. Well, have a good night, and we'll talk to you later. Bye bye.